The New York Islanders are struggling with a frustrating season, but there are reasons for hope. We're going to talk about that, plus preview both of this weekend's critical games coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bet if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today and talk a little Islanders hockey. And we are down to the final 11 games of the regular season, 2 of them coming up this weekend. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the mess in Bridgeport, and we are going to talk about some reasons for hope, and that's where we're going to start today's show. And there are reasons for hope, the biggest one being Cole Eiserman. And, you know, this time of year, everyone is talking about the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournaments. And again, understandably so, it's a big thing. But there's also the NCAA hockey tournament going on right now. And the Islanders have 3 players on teams who are in the tournament. We mentioned Cole Eiserman. He is the most prominent of the 3 prospects. You have Camille Bednarik at BU as well. And then you have Thomas Maggio at Providence College. He was a 7th round pick back in 2021, but as a freshman, you know, hasn't done a lot, played only limited minutes, but he had 6 points in 29 games as a stay-at-home physical defenseman for the Providence Friars. 6'3", so he's a pretty big guy, and, you know, not going to light up the scoreboard necessarily, but he is certainly going to contribute, and the Islanders can use, players like that. And the bottom line for all of these guys is that when you get into any of these international competitions like the World Juniors, or now you're talking about the NCAA tournament where you have the best teams at that level competing against each other, you want to see your players get out there and play well and rise up to the moment, kind of what the Islanders did not do against the Vancouver Canucks on Wednesday night. You want, when the moment is big, when the stage is big, the spotlight is on you, you want to make sure your players rise to the occasion. Now, Cole Eiserman so far seems to be fitting the bill. Eiserman scoring 2 goals to help BU win their tournament opener, beating the Ohio State Buckeyes and advancing to the second round. One more win, and BU will be in the Frozen Four. Now, you know, the score seems like this was a one-sided game, BU winning 8-3, but it didn't start out that way. And in the first period, Ohio State outshot BU 15-2. They took a 1-0 lead. And then in the second period, Eiserman snaps a wicked wrist shot that ties the game at 1. And basically, after 40 minutes of play, it ends up being a 3-3 hockey game heading into the third. And that's where BU pulls away. They get 5, count them, 5 unanswered goals in the third period. And Eiserman scores on a backhander that made the score 6-3. That's kind of the goal that put the game out of reach. And as far as BU is concerned, they will meet the winner of the Michigan State Cornell game that is due to take place on Saturday. So that is going to be exciting. And again, the good news for the Islanders is Cole Eiserman just keeps on being productive. And look, playing college hockey is not the same thing as playing in the NHL. The NHL game is faster. The players are bigger. They have more skills. They are better coached in most instances. They have more experience. They're stronger. You get the idea. The NHL is the best league in the world. It's the highest level of hockey. And NCAA hockey, while improving each year, is not the NHL. It's probably at this point still not even the AHL, although it's getting closer. But at the end of the day, having Cole Eiserman, again, play well in a big game situation is encouraging. And look, you want Eiserman to go out and be productive, to play well. But it goes beyond just putting pucks in the net. And I know that's difficult sometimes to understand or to let it sink in. There are players who are excellent players in the AHL or in college or in juniors who can't be as productive in the NHL because you don't have as much time and space to make the same kind of plays. And, a fake that will work 8 times out of 10 in juniors and maybe 7 times out of 10 in college and 6 times out of 10 in the AHL may only work once or twice out of 10 times in the NHL if it works at all. If you need 1 second to get rid of a shot in juniors, you may only have, a half a second in the AHL or college hockey, and maybe only a half of that, maybe a quarter of a second to get that shot off in the NHL if you want to, A, get the shot away from the defenseman who's barreling in on you, and B, beat the goalie. And so you have to understand that it goes beyond scoring. Eiserman has got the scoring thing down. He has been successful at putting pucks in the net at every level. And scouts are raving about his shooting ability, the fact that he finds ways to get open, to get his shots off. He has a fast release. He has an accurate shot. All of those things have scouts raving. Now, again, doing it in college and doing it in the NHL, not the same thing. But the key for Cole Eiserman, and everydayers will remember I've talked about this. The key for Cole Eiserman is that he needs to be productive when he doesn't have the puck. And I am not saying that Cole Eiserman is going to be a shutdown back checker, that he's going to be an elite defensive player. That probably won't ever be his game. But what he needs to be able to do is show that he's coachable, which he did show in World Juniors, and that he's willing to be positionally sound, to put in the effort. A lot of defense is about effort. And Eiserman has to pick up his man, back check, do things to help teammates, line mates get open. He needs to help out defensively, pick up his man so he doesn't have speed and time and space coming into the defensive zone for the Islanders. These are the things that are going to determine when he's ready for the NHL. The scoring thing he has down, okay? He is a goal scorer. But to make it in the NHL, you cannot just be a one-dimensional goal scorer. If you score 5 goals, or you score 2 goals in a game, but your poor defense causes your team to give up 3, coaches are not going to be happy about that. So Eiserman is doing well, and it's encouraging to see him putting 2 goals in a clutch situation in an NCAA tournament game. I love it. I love it. It was great to see Cole Eiserman be on the, be a power play specialist, an occasional 4th line guy at World Juniors, and accept that role and do it well. I like what I'm seeing from Cole Eiserman, and I can't wait for him to be ready to play in the NHL. But it's probably, not next year, at the earliest, the year after. And we'll see, but hopefully he continues to develop, and we're going to keep you up to date on everything Cole Eiserman does in this tournament as long as BU stays in it. But good news, reasons for hope, and slowly but surely, the Islanders seem to have some players who might even be considered prospects, even if they are 2 to 3 years away from potentially being NHL ready. So Cole Eiserman, reason for hope for the New York Islanders. We're going to answer an email about the whole situation in Bridgeport, which is historically bad. How bad, we're going to tell you. Plus, we'll preview both of this weekend's key games. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a winger who played with the Islanders in the mid to late 80s and into the early 90s. Let's see if you can guess who this Hazelton, British Columbia native is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I got my eyes on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With the tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on, and the FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. There's no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. That's FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. Check it out today. I've been sitting on this email, and my apologies from Charlie, friend of the show, who actually sent it 10 days ago, really. But Charlie says, Gil, maybe an episode or a segment about the horrible state of Bridgeport. The stench coming out of there is testing the AHL record books. Why hasn't Chris Lamoriello been fired along with the entire coaching staff? They are the Charlestown Chiefs before the Hanson brothers. Yes, we don't have a lot of great prospects, but in AHL hockey, you can sign guys and be competitive. It's another stain on Lou. He's trying to play it off, but it's a terrible situation. How do you think Isaiah George feels, or Alex Jeffries? It's not healthy for them. It seems very unlikely we make the playoffs this year. I'll laugh if we grab the 8th spot, which no one seems to want or care about. But right now, I know a lot of people don't care about Bridgeport, but it shows a deep problem beyond our 500 NHL teams. And I'm glad that many of the top prospects we have are in the NCAA, in juniors, or overseas. Charlie, first of all, thank you for the email. Sorry it took so long. It's just been a little bit of a busy time here with a lot of games and a lot of news, so I couldn't get to it as quickly as I wanted to. But look, Lou Lamoriello has said that winning in the AHL is not his priority. And I think that's obvious, okay? He wants to make sure that Bridgeport has players who can step in and play if needed for a game, 2 games, if a guy gets hurt, 3 games, whatever it is. will know the system and be ready to step up. Well, I get it. Okay. That is one of the things you need to do with your AHL affiliate. A smart team has a coach implement a similar system in the AHL to what the NHL team plays. Okay. And we have seen, like you mentioned, Isaiah George played really well for about 15 games when they called him up. But there's been mixed issues here because, when injuries hit the defense, the guys they brought up didn't really pan out. Isaiah George hit the rookie wall. He, kind of faded and didn't keep up that kind of a pace and had to be eventually sent down. And then you had Dennis Chalowski and Grant Hutton, guys who, they played, but didn't seem to win Patrick Waugh's trust over time. When the injuries hit the forward line, the Islanders, actually moved Adam Boqvist to forward because they didn't trust Matt Martin, and they're not calling up Alex Jeffries or Pinho or Karlstrom or any of the guys who are down in the AHL to play. And, you had to acquire defensemen like Scott Perunovich and Boqvist and Tony DeAngelo. So that is one issue. That, no, the prospect pool isn't great, but neither is the veteran pool. But then I came across this. The Bridgeport Islanders have only 35 points this year. 14 points. That's 7 games worse than the team with the next worst record in the league. And here's the deal. Bridgeport's home record this year is 4-23-4. That's 4 wins out of 31 home games so far. Their winning percentage at home is .194. The all-time worst record in AHL history at home for a team is the 1946-47 Philadelphia club that had a winning percentage of just .172. And even if Bridgeport wins every home game they've got for the rest of this year, their winning percentage at home will just be .306. This team has really, really bottomed out. They have struggled. And it's really Lou and Chris Lamoriello who are in charge of this team. And look, the fact that you traded away 4 straight first-round draft picks and that the Islanders have had a terrible prospect pool in recent years is all part of the problem, okay? And again, the fact that most of the Islanders' top prospects are in Europe or in college or in juniors. But here's the thing that you need from your AHL affiliate. Number one, you want them to be respectable. I don't need them to win a championship or even be competing necessarily for a championship. Not as priority one, okay? But they can't be historically bad, and that's what we're seeing right now down in Bridgeport. And I feel bad for fans of the Bridgeport Islanders who pay for season tickets, who want to see a quality product on the ice, and, are dealing with a team that can't even win double-digit home games over the course of the season. But you need to take your prospects, and when they go down to Bridgeport in the AHL, they need to develop. They need to have the skills. They need to know how to play the game the way your NHL team wants them to play. And they have to be, if they're not NHL ready when they arrive in Bridgeport, they have to be a lot more NHL ready after a year or two there. With the exception of Noah Dobson and Simon Holmstrom, the Islanders have not developed any of their young players and gotten them to where, to be NHL ready. And that is a problem. Bridgeport has become kind of a black hole for prospects. They go to Bridgeport and they don't come out as ready to compete in the NHL. And you look at Kiefer Bellows, Oliver Wahlstrom, so many guys who went down to Bridgeport and just never developed. And I'm not saying that this is all the fault of the coaches. It could be scouts. They may not have been great prospects, but you get a pattern after a while. Look this year. When you entered this year, everyone was talking about Matthew Maggio and William Dufour. Neither one of them took a step forward and developed into an NHL-ready player. And again, these guys were, 4th, 5th round picks. They weren't necessarily considered top prospects coming in, but you can't have a farm club, an AHL affiliate, that is A, historically bad, and B, doesn't develop players. If they are competitive and developing players, that's ideal. If they're not as competitive, but they're just, if they're below average, let's say, but you get good players coming out of there and being NHL ready and taking that next step in their development, you can live with it. But right now, you're not getting either. You have a team that is historically bad on the ice and not developing enough prospects to help the big club. And that's really an unacceptable situation. So, Charlie, thank you for the email. I hope we see some changes in Bridgeport, a little more money spent there, a little more emphasis on player development, and maybe even winning some more hockey games. It's going to be important and for the future of this organization, because what you don't want to see is guys like Pulkkinen and guys like Eiserman and guys like Danny Nelson eventually get to Bridgeport at some point and then have their development stall. All right, more to get to on today's show. The Islanders have 2 big games this weekend against Tampa Bay and Carolina. We'll break down the keys to victory in each game. We have that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in around a golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. I've been staying up late to watch some tournament action and some hockey, and 5 Hour Energy helps keep me up the next day. With the longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run, and Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24 pack and have it delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and feel energized. 2 big games for the New York Islanders this weekend. And it all starts Saturday afternoon, a 2 o'clock Eastern time start. Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is not an easy assignment. Neither of this weekend's games are easy. Tampa Bay right now is in a 3-way race for first place in the Atlantic Division. 2 points separate Toronto, Florida, and Tampa Bay with 11 games to go. Tampa Bay, second in the league in goals scored, seventh in goals against. Their power play and penalty kill both top 10. Power play is seventh, 25.7% success. The PK, sixth, 82.1% success. Some of the great names that we've all known about are still there. Andrei Vasilevsky, the starting goaltender, Nikita Kucherov, Jake Gensel, Braden Point, Brandon Hagel. Look, right now, the Tampa Bay Lightning have 4 30-plus goal scorers and 2 more guys with 20 or more goals. The New York Islanders, nowhere near that. And by the way, the Lightning are coming off a blowout win over the Utah Hockey Club. So, this game, it really has helped them. And Andrei Vasilevsky was the goalie. Now, whether they go with Vasilevsky again on Saturday after having Friday off, that remains to be seen. The Lightning will play the Islanders and then won't play another game until April 1st when they play the Islanders at UBS Arena. So they have time off. They may stick with Vasilevsky under the circumstances. The line combinations for the Bolts: Braden Point, Jake Gensel, Nikita Kucherov, one of the best top lines in the NHL. Anthony Cirelli centers Hagel and Nick Paul on the second line. Yanni Gourde, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and Gage Conclaves on the third line. And then Luke Glendening, Zemgus Girgensons, and Darren Radish are the fourth line. The always dangerous Victor Hedman and J.J. Moser are the top defense pair. Ryan McDonough and Eric Cernak are the second pair. And then Emil Lilberg and Nick Perbix are the third pair. The goalies, as I mentioned, Vasilevsky and Jonas Johansson. This is a team that the Islanders need to really play well to beat. And what you can't see, you remember those defensive breakdowns that we discussed that led to so many goals for the Canucks? If you have similar defensive breakdowns against the Lightning, you will get blown out like the Utah Hockey Club got blown out last night. You will not fare well. They just lost 8-0. The last 2 games, Tampa Bay has won 6-1 and 8-0. They've outscored their opponents 14-1. They are in the hunt for that division title, and it will be tough to beat them. And then after that, Sunday, a tough game again, also on the road, 5 o'clock Eastern time start. The Islanders visit Raleigh to take on the Carolina Hurricanes. Hurricanes also top 10 in goals and goals against, 9th in goals scored, 6th in goals against. Their penalty kill is the best in the league, but their power play is struggling at 18.1%. They're 25th. They're still way better on the power play than the Islanders. We know Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Andrei Svechnikov, Martin Necas. This is a talented team. You look at the line combinations for Carolina: Aho, Jarvis, and Jackson Blake, the top trio. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Taylor Hall, and Jack Roslovich are the second line. Jordan Stahl centers Jordan Martinook and Logan Stankoven on the third line. And then it's Mark Jankowski, Eric Robinson, and Svechnikov on the fourth line, although Svechnikov a little banged up. We'll see if he's ready. Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns make an outstanding top defense pair. Dmitry Orlov and Jalen Chatfield are the second pair. And then Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker are the third pair. The goalies, Frederick Anderson and Pyotr Kochekov, both of them good. Jesper Fast on IR, William Carrier out, and Svechnikov officially listed as day-to-day. The good news for the Islanders, well, maybe it's not good news. The Hurricanes play the Montreal Canadiens. So that's good because that's a tough game for Montreal, but that game is Friday. So the Islanders are on a back-to-back. The Hurricanes will be rested. And again, the Islanders, have to make sure that they don't make those defensive mistakes and have to back check And when they get the opportunity to finish, boy, oh boy, they need to finish. Let's see if the Islanders can rise to the occasion, which they did not do on that 4-game homestand, and find a way to win some hockey games. 3 points out of a possible 4 this weekend would get the Islanders right back into the playoff hunt. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 61st birthday of former Islanders winger Alan Kerr. He was a 4th-round pick of the Islanders in 1982, joined the team during the 84-85 season and stayed on the island through the 90-91 campaign, then played for Detroit and Winnipeg before hanging up his skates after the 1992-93 season. Played in 391 career NHL games, most of them with the Islanders. 72 goals, 166 points, 826 penalty minutes. Add 5 goals and 9 points in 38 penalty minutes, all but 9 of those games with the New York Islanders. And Alan Kerr had his best season in 87-88 when he had 24 goals and 58 points in 80 games. One of his best games as an Islander, November 1st, 1987, Islanders visiting the old Boston Garden to take on the Bruins. Kelly Hrudey gets the start for the Islanders. Doug Keens in goal for Boston. And in this game, the Bruins have a 3-1 lead in the second period when our Islanders' birthday of the day, Alan Kerr, sets up Pat LaFontaine to get the Islanders back into the game. But after 2 periods, it's 4-2 Boston. Ken Linsman makes it 5-2 early in the third, and that's when the Islanders start their comeback. Alan Kerr, our Islanders' birthday of the day, scores on the power play with John Blum in the box for holding. Mikko Makala and Tomas Jansson the assist. Then, with the Islanders down 5-4 with a little more than 2 minutes left, Alan Kerr strikes again. Pat LaFontaine the assist. That sends the game to overtime. And in overtime, Kerr and Dennis Potvin set up Pat LaFontaine for the game winner. Islanders win it 6-5. But for Alan Kerr, our birthday of the day, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's a +2. He led all Islanders with 7 shots on goal. And he set up the game winner in OT on this 4-point night. Billy Smith came in relief of Kelly Hrudey and ended up getting the win for the Islanders. So Alan Kerr is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. We will be back Monday, everydayers. Please take note. We'll have our key takeaways from both of these games and give you the latest updates on the playoff race. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.